A goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Ruby and Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Hello and welcome to the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. This episode is more of a drive-by than a drive-in. And we're going to have a look at some of the latest bits and pieces as to what's been going on over the last few weeks at Huddersfield Town. And joining me, as usual, is my boy Ian Kilroy Silk. And Killer, a good place to start then will be the Emily Friendly. So, hands up, I've little to no interest in these games. So I didn't go, I was busy, I didn't watch it, etc. So I'm going to have to lean on you to do a lot of heavy lifting on this one. And I'm sure you'll enjoy breaking things down as you do. One thing, though, I will say, and that there's been a small percentage of Huddersfield fans losing their heads, as well as the Bradford City Twitter admin as well, over the score, when the last 30 minutes was very much a young side run by Michael Tongue. Is it significant? Well, not really. Town people will remember Town went unbeaten in Jan Sievert's pre-season, and then he got sacked within weeks of this season starting because they couldn't buy a win. And then 2011-12 was the last time we were promoted from League One. Can you guess who we lost to in pre-season that year, Killer?
We lost 2-1, I think, did we? Were it 2-1 up at Emily? We definitely lost to them, I think.
So maybe the omens are good for this coming season. Who knows, eh? Right, mate. How did we line up then? Was it? I think what we were interested in knowing, and one thing that me and you were very interested in was who was right. Basically, me or Joel, because we've been doing these little articles, haven't we? Joel's had us lined up in a 3-4-1-2, and I've had us in a 4-2-3-1. And the way I've been going on about things is that they'll have one of the fullbacks pushing high, and then one of them will wrap around to make it like 3 at the back. And what you'll get is 3 at the back, and then 2. The pivot is pretty much in front of them, controls everything, and that's what happened at Ipswich. So you'll get 3. And then a 2 in front of them, and then so you'll have like an M almost. Like going back to Herbert Chapman. Lee Grant's the new Herbert Chapman. There you go. So it's almost like a WM kind of system in some ways, but not quite. So tell us who's the man, who's the boy with the knowledge? Is it me or Joel?
Matt, the OGs every day of the week, Matt. I was with you on that 4-2-3-1. That was the only way it could go. It's like you say, with that wraparound fullback / wing back off centre. Duff tried to pretend we played that way a little bit under him for the entire season. That we saw in parts, but definitely not for the entire season. But that's just modern football, and I think Lee Grant thinks of himself as that modern kind of fluid coach. So yeah, Matt, you won that battle. But Matt, I've got a couple of questions before I get into this. 92 days, Matt. There will be 92 days between two things. Do you know what that is?
Have you been speaking to my wife?
I have not, but do you know what? It's linked because you and I are in a secret romantic relationship, and it will be 92 days, Matt, between you and I spending the last game at Leyton Orient, and then next one at home. So I miss you, mate. It'll be quite a while, won't it, before we sit next to each other again and enjoy a game. Hopefully, a bit more in August than we did.
I was going to ask you if, when we do the pre-season preview, if we should all get in a room together and do it in a room and record it in a room. I thought that. But, I've not asked you that. I've just asked you live on air whether that's a good thing we can do. So I reckon we can do that, can't we? Maybe we're in the dark in your room there with. Maybe I'll find the light switch for you that you've not found all of last season. We can sit in there in the dark, can't we? And count your turkeys and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, that sounds brilliant. That sounds like a lovely. That's my idea of a really nice day out. Right. The other game, Matt. The other question I've got is Neil Warnock. When we went on our pubs and golf tour, we drew with an absolutely nonsense team down south. Oh, Warwick. Do you remember who it was?
Was it Bodmin or something like that?
Was it Bodmin or was it Tavistock? I remember. Now I can't remember. I could probably go online.
One of them we won at like 11-1 or something, didn't we?
Correct.
And they
but we did draw. But we drew one of the games 0-0, didn't we, against a team of nobodies, and we actually put a first team out. And on paper and in reality, that's a much worse result from the Don, Mr. Warnock, in charge of us. That's a worse result than what we went through at Emily. First, it was a really nice day, wasn't it? Like 38 degrees or something stupid. I drive up to Skelmanthorpe and then walk up the park gate up towards Emily because it's always an absolute nightmare trying to park up there. It's a great little stadium, though. Honestly, I can't believe we struggled to really sell it. I think last year we took 1,700, 1,750 or something, and this year we were much closer. Is that what it was? There you go. Look at that, man. It's rare that I remember something better than you, but there you go. I have today. But no, Emily's such a nice day out. It was a great weather. Walking up past White Horse Pub, it were rammed with Town fans, and it's amazing how quickly things change. It is only 92 days between the end of last season and the beginning of next, yet people have already forgotten how last season ended. Because honestly, in the pubs before the game, it was just nice atmosphere. Yeah, it's a friendly, nothing to play for, but it's just nice to see a bit of good feeling back. And to be fair to Nagel and everybody else at the club, they've kind of delivered that, bringing a new manager in that hasn't been tarnished with failure anywhere else, maybe. And we're all a little bit more excited than I think most of us would be at this point. But yeah, looking at that starting lineup, Matt, it was, I think, surprising for a few. And again, I know it's a friendly and not really that big of a deal, Matt, but we've got Wilesy and Evans starting again in centre midfield, Matt. As to my eyes, the argument is Wiles played more of a 10. I think he did, but him and Evans were still both pretty high in that system. But the starting lineup were good. It was quite surprising as well, I think, to see Lee Nichols starting with the links between Goodman coming in, and obviously that's happened today, and we'll go into that in a Patreon episode, signed, sealed, delivered at some point, I'm sure, this week. So Nichols to get the nod over everyone else, because I think realistically it's unlikely we're going to carry both or all three of the senior goalkeepers that we've got now into the season. So it was strange to see him get the start, to be totally honest. But it was nice to see everybody there before the game. Reece Healy was there. He wasn't kitted up. Joe Lowe was there. He's absolutely massive, but he wasn't kitted up. I think he's got an injury, hasn't he? I think the word after the game was he was missing out due to knock. Didn't see Bojan Radulovic. Don't know where he is, but it was nice to see all the squad kind of there, and DTS were there. A few of the senior members of staff were knocking about. Just a nice day. And from the off, the pitch looked good. It's a bit of a slant up at the welfare ground, or I don't know what it's called now, if it's Fantastic Media. It was for a while, but the welfare ground, to anybody in old money, bit bouncy, the pitch, but it was a really nice setup for a game that I thought was going to be really quite good. I love the back format. It gets me excited every time. I don't care who we're playing. If I'm seeing a back four, I'm expecting attacking free-flowing football. We didn't get that. That's not entirely what we got, but I don't think that's the aim in these kind of games. Feeney started at centre-back as well, next to Eco Solomon, who, to be fair, I've not really seen before. I think I watched... I went down to the Mansfield...
Shall we do it, mate? Shall we do the thing?
Oh, we're going there already? Getting out early, Matt?
Yeah, why not? Let's get the tactics board out. So, obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see the tactics board. If you're only listening via Patreon or Acast or one of the other ways, Killer will do his best to describe audio-visually as to how Town lined up. But let's kick it off, mate. So you were obviously a bit of a twinge with the back four. Let's go with that, mate.
All right, we'll go with Nichols in goal. Obviously, he started there. On the right-hand side, we started with everyone's favourite right wing-back in the history of Huddersfield Town, let's say Sorensen. I'll break down the performances as we go through it. Sorensen started wide right, and like you say, Matt, with Eccleston on the left-hand side, it was a little bit of a kind of a different shift in that Sorensen had more license to get high and get forward, whereas Eccleston kind of stayed a little bit more reserved. And now football, to me, growing up, 15, 20 years ago, well, no more than that, but it was more both fullbacks could kind of go forward if they wanted to, and the other one adjusted. That's not how we kind of played against Emily. It was more like you say, one fullback, and that was Sorensen, could kind of bomb on, and everybody else then adjusted into a back three to make up for it. So you've got that extra man in midfield. Again, you've got to consider the opposition we're playing. No one's going to be given a task as tough as what you'll get in League One next year. But Sorensen started on that right-hand side, got forward pretty well. But it was nice to see Feeney play as the right centre-back next to, again, Eco Solomon, who's, again, somebody that's surprised me to... I know you say he played a little bit pre-season last year. I saw him in the Mansfield game, I think, the under-21s area final. Didn't look too great, but against Emily, looked all right. Feeney, the first time we've got to see him, and Matt, I'll be honest, Obviously, he does score as a spoiler in the 28th minute with a tapping after some really good work down the left hand side from a corner that's kind of rebounded back in. But to me, Matt, he's a defender, a young defender that looks massive, is strong. But quite a few times, Emily sat in that deep block because obviously we're a better team. That's what you expect against opposition like this. So Feeney were tasked with driving out quite a lot from the back. And now straight away, you see that's not his game. He got the ball quite a bit, walked it forward and kind of passed it out sideways quite laboriously. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but he definitely needs somebody next to him that is going to progress passes quicker with a much higher tempo. He didn't look that kind of guy to me. Just in front of the centre backs, then you had David Kasumu that we kind of expect to fit into that role between him or Ledson over the course of the year. And in front of him, you had Evans slightly. I think you could argue, like you say, Matt, in that WM formation, maybe he's supposed to be next to him. But Evans plays as high as he wants to play. He wants to play as a 10, doesn't he? He wants that Steven Gerrard role, as you often refer to him as, Matt. And whilst they were in front of him as captain as the 10, on the right-hand side, we had Harness, who, to be fair, you got to compare it to Ruskin on the left-hand side. Ruskin played left, and he played very, very wide left. Again, because of Sorensen on the right-hand side going high and wide, I think that meant Harness drifted in quite a bit and played quite narrow, a bit like Josh Koroma tended to do at times. I think that was the best comparison I got from the day. Different player on the ball, but positionally kind of wants to come inside and play central. And to be fair to Harness, he also dropped deep a lot. He did a lot of running for a guy playing high and wide, Matt. Like I said, Ruskin on the left-hand side with Dion Charles up front, who did his textbook smash on over from about 4 yards out as high as he could out of the stadium. But he did chase down really well and looked really fit. I think there's been times last year where his press wasn't necessarily the greatest, whereas against Emily, again, it was only for 30 minutes, so you can't go into it too much. But you could tell he was tasked with chasing the ball down and trying to press high. And that is something in a friendly that you can take and think, right, we do want to press high this year, whereas last year it wasn't the case. That's one of the few things I would take from it.
So the question I say is, how do you press? Because basically under Michael Duff, what we had is we had two up front, and basically the two strikers would press, and then no one would back that up, and therefore it was almost like a lost press, and it allowed anyone who was half decent just to knock the ball into midfield. So with Town's lineup here, what we've got is we've got that three at the back there, which provides a little platform, and then in front you get that sort of the two pivot players there. So you have quite a solid base there, and I think looking through the squad, that left centre back role is going to be Sean Rowan or Murray Wallace by the looks of things at the moment. I wanted Town to do it the other way around. And me saying it's going to be like this is basically just because I read the Coach's Voices article or the Coach's Voice article on Ipswich Town, and I just thought, Lee Grant's come from there. He's obviously going to copy the blueprint, isn't he? So it's nothing groundbreaking that I've been looking through the holes in the KFC car park or anything ropey like that. I expected it to be the other way around, similar to Ipswich. I expected Ruskin to be the left back or Miller on that side be the one ploughing forward, and then Brodie Spencer be that wrapped in right back, and that made a lot more sense to me. But it looks, from what we've seen, it's going to be the right hand side that's maybe going to be the attacking one, which makes me question where Brodie Spencer fits in with that. Because will he again be that sort of centre back, that right sided centre back, which he's someone who can dribble out and progress that way, but he's not the greatest ball player as he went with it, but he's capable of doing that. The pivot then you've got your more sort of ball winning one, if you like, in Ledson or Kasumu, which will kind of sit there. And then where it's really key, or where it was really key for Ipswich, was that formation there, that 3 and 2 were really solid for them, and that's where they stop any counterattacks from there, and they control the whole tempo of the game from this 5. Everyone else, then one of the fullbacks pushes right up, the striker pushes on, and then one of the wingers comes inside. And with Ipswich, it was the left. They had Wes Burns as well, who did that on the right as well. He came in quite a lot. So they had more inverted wing, or what you would refer to as inverted wingers or inside forwards, playing to cut in onto their favoured foot. So Amari Hutchinson, people have seen in the Championship, and he scored the other day for the England under 21s in the final, which was great as well. So what you're likely to have is a Marcus Harness. I thought Marcus Harness may play off the left, And then what you would have is you would have Ruskin going on the outside, and then Harness coming into the middle. And the reason why I sort of stopped at you on the point of pressing was because Dion Charles is doing that. And I think the reason why they play Marcus Harness really tucked in is because he can lead the press from an inside forward position as well.
Yep.
So therefore, what we've got is you've got your striker leading, but then he's backed up quite ably by the number 10, which would be Ben Wiles in this scenario, and then Marcus Harness who comes in. And then so instead of having two strikers doing it and then no one backing them up, all of a sudden you've got a fullback pushed high, you've got the striker pushing between the defence, and then you've got Marcus Harness, who's going to tuck inside, and then the number 10, which is Ben Wiles, and Ruskin. So all of a sudden you've got 5 players there leading a press rather than just 2, and that becomes more effective then. And that's when this 5 then we're talking about the back 3 and the 2 push up to join and squeeze and condense the space. And that's effectively how I thought Huddersfield Town will play under Lee Grant. It would be led by a high press. And my worry has always been when these 5 move up, the speed or the lack of it in that back 3. I mean, Spencer, if he plays in there, is quite sharp. Sean Rowan's not slow. So maybe it's not all too bad. So I've been sort of contemplating that they'll maybe go more mid-block rather than high pressing. But that then maybe leaves a bit of a gap in the middle. But you watch the way, for anybody who watches the Premier League and Match of the Day, and Robert De Zerbi when he was manager, not De Zerbi, I can't remember the guy who's at Brighton. Who's the guy at Brighton at the minute? The young German coach, I think is. But basically, they almost play 5-0-5 there, and they turn the ball over quickly from like a similar looking 5 here, the 3 defenders and 2 midfielders, to that 5 up front, and then they have a huge gap in the middle, which they refer to as dead space. And then what they try and do is try and play outside of that dead space, and then try and cover in and press up when they lose the ball. Rather than going backwards, they go forwards. And I think potentially that's what Lee Grant would like to do. But to do that, you can't have slow players, or you can't have a backline anyway with say Wallace, Feeney, and whoever is slow. They're not slow, are they? They're just not. They just don't have the recovery pace of of some of the other defenders that you see at this level. That's all. But that's effectively the way I thought it would.
Yep.
Would go killer. So that's why I'm quite interested in the pressing unit and the function of the first press and the second and the third and fourth going, and what you saw with regards to how they did that. And I know it's only Emily, it's only the first friendly, but you do start to notice these little things, these little trigger points that they've worked on in the first few weeks, and how they're going to play. And I suppose I'm not really interested in the results of this game, like I mentioned earlier. But the only things I'm interested in this game is the little hints and the little tips that we get of how Town will line up going forward in the season and what we're looking out for. Because basically, we're looking, when the season kicks off, we're looking for who's not pulling the weight and doing the job, aren't we? That's what we do.
We are, and Matt, you're spot on with the press. There was a trigger point, there was a trigger man, and that trigger man was Ben Wiles as a 10. And I think whoever we go with in that 10 will have to be very athletic, because you could visibly see it was like a normal press, like you say, Matt. Charles was running heavy, running hard. If the keeper had it, for example, Charles waited, went when he thought he had a chance to get in there. Harness backed him up a bit, so did Ruskin. But the real pressure, the real trigger man was Wiles. If Wiles saw a little bit of an error, you could see him shout, hear him shout, and that's when everybody moved up and bunched up. Now, again, like you say, Matt, these friendlies, results don't matter, but you can see little tiny patterns of play that are either worrying defensively or positive attacking. I thought it was a good thing. My little issue is I don't know who else we have who can play that 10 role, who's fast enough to kind of bite and understand what's happening. Because I don't think Evans is that guy. Yeah, just Harness, but then who's going to play on the wide right to kind of press from there? Because as we know, it's most effective when one of your wingers is an Elias Kachunga. He's a guy that can kind of, he's not raw pace, but intelligent enough that he helps with that defensive high up the pitch, that defensive play, which I know sounds overcomplicated and boring, and no one's interested in it. But most goals are scored from a turnover of play in the final third of the field. They are at amateur level, and I think once you get to League 2, it is. I think League 1 might be a little bit different, but winning the ball back high is the easiest way to score goals. It's just doing it in a way that's rational and not gifting them too much space, as you've said, Matt. But no, Wiles was that role. And to be fair to Town, I thought in that first 30 minutes, if Town had been 2 or 3-0 up, no one would have complained. We dominated possession. We created enough chances, really. Charles should have done better with one. Wiles missed from 4 yards out, and I'm convinced, again, not just because it's Ben Wiles, but I think if it's a league game, he takes the keeper out, takes the ball, and he ends up in the back of the net. It was a risky one. You could have got injured in it, and I think in friendlies, you don't take that risk, and that's what these games are about. You don't take stupid chances. 50-50 battles, you leave them because you win. It's not worth it at this kind of point in the pre-season. But Town were good in that first 30 minutes. The system looked good. It was refreshing. It was nice to see us play in a way that had some sort of attacking systems in it, Matt, because as we've complained about over the last 12 months or so, it was very difficult to try and see any kind of attacking play that we were trying to go with. And to be fair to Grant, you could see it at the weekend in parts. It wasn't fluid, it wasn't perfect. It's not going to be after they've been in training for 3-4 days, but at least they were trying, and I quite enjoyed seeing that in that first 30 minutes.
Yeah. So the second 30 came as well, and we've got, I think this is what happens, and we're likely to have that in the Barrow friendly behind closed doors. There's no word yet, is there, as to whether they're going to stream that or anything or whatnot. Behind closed doors friendlies generally are kept away, aren't they, from public eyes? So, so by the looks of it, that won't be happening, but it'll be interesting to know how we get on. So the second 30 minutes, I think we had Jacob Chapman, Brodie Spencer, Ian Togo, Sean Rowan, Jay Sway, what a great name, Herbie Kane, Ryan Ledson, Cameron Ashier, Freddie Ladapo, Mikel Miller, and Joe Taylor. And this is where it changed a little bit. I'm going to come off the tactics board now, but this sort of changed. And I think Freddie Ladapo was more of a 10/pushing on, wasn't he? And it kind of, maybe you felt that maybe that role got a little bit muddled, maybe. And Ladapo played as a striker, didn't he? For people will remember that Lee Grant was very much in charge of the attacking unit at Ipswich as the coach, and Freddie Ladapo got 20 goals that season when Lee Grant was there. So we're hoping that maybe he can strike twice on that one, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. He's made an auspicious start as Freddie, but he used him differently, didn't he? He used him as more of a 10 with Joe Taylor through the middle, and by all accounts, he was trying to keep Joe Taylor through the middle and make sure he wasn't drifting away at any point.
Yeah, he did. And to be fair to Joe Taylor, again, you've got to consider the opposition and the quality of them. Taylor looked better playing straight down the middle. That's where he is. I think he was just back to basics. Do that, Joe, and just go about what you do best, mate. And he did look better for it. It was weird, Matt, seeing Freddie Ladapo playing or trying to play as a 10. I think that must have been what the design was, but realistically, it kind of played like a 4-1-3-2 because, to be fair to him, they were just two strikers. Ladapo did his best, and the only thing I don't like is we had the ironic Freddie Ladapo cheers as usual every time he touched the ball, which I still don't like. I thought we might get past that at this point, but no, that was still there. But this 30 minutes, Matt, to be totally honest, was about two people. Ryan Ledson, who looked fantastic. Again, you've got to consider who we're playing. It's not like he's suddenly going to win Ballon d'Or because of it. But instantly got the ball, picked it up, a bit of tempo, a bit of drive, tried a few Hoggy-esque Hollywood balls, Matt, that went straight out for a throw-in, as you totally expect, but he's busy. We didn't look as much of a unit as we did in that first 30 minutes. I was stood at the other end of the slope, so you couldn't see too much in depth up that end. But we had hit the bar. We had a couple of chances off the line. I think all from Taylor and Ledson. I think hit the bar himself. I think it was him that did that. But he also put one in to a Dion Charles-esque state behind the stand behind the goal. But the 30 minutes there was all about Ledson, who looked really good, but also Matt, Sean Rowan. And now we spoke about this in the Signed, Sealed, Delivered episode, that when Lasse Sorensen signed, Town fans got excited. We spoke to some Lincoln City guys, and they're like, we're not that bothered. We've got Tariq Darikwa coming in as a wing back, and he's better. Sorensen's not that good. And we were like, well, sour grapes. Totally different, isn't it, Matt, when we're talking about Sean Rowan? I think the feedback we got for those that haven't listened to that episode was that they were really upset. Yeah, they were really upset that he left. He played every minute in the league last year for Lincoln. And Matt, honestly, the guy looks class. Genuinely, of all the players on that field, if you want to pick anybody out for the all-round performance who you just thought, yeah, you can play football a little bit, Sean Rowan is that guy. He dictated everything from the back. I am just wanting to put a shout out here to to someone who's making me a little bit cooler in my household, in that my wife Lucy has got a name that's quite cool still. And for 37-year-old, 36-year-old people, it's rare to have a name that's still cool, right? Ian has never been cool. It's never been cool in the history of coolness, right? But there's a few professional footballers now creeping in that are cool guys. And we've got one of them ourselves in Ian Togo, who was, I think, Malian/American, Matt, and was playing for the Stoke under 18s in the Premier League under 18s and PL2 a couple of years ago. And he started at centre-back, came on at 30 minutes and played next to Rowan. And the pair of them looked nice little partnership, to be fair. But Ian Togo's massive. He's an absolute unit. Honestly, he's Kyle Hudlin levels of unit. I think there's somebody there that may, not this year, but instantly, Matt, we've got somebody to look out for the next couple of years if he sticks around. But back to Rowan, he's a left-foot centre-back, Matt. But when you watch him, he looks like a midfielder playing centre-back. And that's a really, really good thing, depending on who you put him next to. But all our ball playing came out from him, Matt. What I really like to see with him and what I really enjoyed watching was that it were quick little touches, a little shift and a pass. Everything Feeney doesn't do, which is, he looked laborious, but he's a big guy. He's not there to be that guy. He's not there to be the progressor through midfield. Rowan is. And now, when we signed him, Matt, we kind of thought he'd be a bit small to play centre-back maybe. I know he's 6'1", but we thought he played smaller and he'd come in as a left-back. Right now, Matt, if you're asking me who I expect to start at centre-back, he has to be that guy. And again, it's only Emily, it doesn't matter. But the way he played football is something we don't have any other centre-backs that can do it. He gets the ball, he takes the space available to him and plays the ball that's not just safe, Matt, but the right ball. And that's really, really important. And I couldn't have been more impressed. Honestly, it was worth going to Emily alone just to see him play football, just because we don't have that. We've not had a guy like that. And you can really see that he's going to be such an asset for us this season. And out of that 30 minutes, that's probably what mattered the most, in that he looked like a professional footballer who can pass the ball from centre-back. And I'm all in for it, Matt.
So he was the wider of the three, was he, in that? So we had Sean Rowan left back moving to the centre in possession.
No, he played in the centre. It was supposed to, he's supposed to be a back four. It was still a back four because GSOA playing his right hand side and Spenner were playing, I think, on the left hand side. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember because they swapped around that often with it being. But either of them two played fullbacks with Togo and Rowan. But yeah, it does kind of go to a back three. But Rowan was always the central. Whenever it shifted, Matt, he ended up being the central guy. And anything passes coming back from the midfield went to Rowan. Even if the other option was on, you can tell the communication there from the side from Grant was give the ball to Rowan at the centre back. And I think that's something that's going to be common throughout pre-season and one thing for everybody to watch. Yeah, he was a central guy when possible.
Interesting. Right, and then I think the last third, Lee Grant packed up, left the ground. I think they all kind of went and did their sort of cool downs, etc. And it was, from what I'm led to believe, it was mostly a sort of an under 18 kind of team that they fielded, and most of them were quite young. I think you mentioned Echo Solomon might have come back through, and I think, I'll be honest, I'm not overly worried about a bunch of kids losing 3-0 to a bunch of men. I'm sure it'll do them good in the long run, and whether a lot of them will make it, who knows? But I'm not remotely worried. I don't even really want to waste any sort of energy on it, to be honest with you. And I think people that were kind of sort of, I don't even know if people were serious. I don't, social media, I don't know if people are serious or not anymore. You can't tell, can you? It all blurs into one. Maybe they're serious and joking at the same time. But there were people sort of saying Michael tongue out, and I was like looking at it going, are they serious, or are they just reacting? Or, and in the end, I just ignored it. But I just like it was bizarre, and it's not something we're going to concern ourselves with, is it? We lost the game 3-1, but when the kids came and we were 1-0 up, I don't think there's much to overly worry about. So in terms of Ian Togo, Kevin Nagel asked for big, strong, tall defenders, and it sounds like he's got them with Lowe and Togo and what have you. He's 18, is Ian Togo. Sounds like he's been released by Stoke and he's on trial with us. So I imagine he'll play in the behind closed doors friendly. And Town do need some more players for the B team. They signed Tom Yapenda's brother, haven't they, George? He's going to be, I think he's a centre back as well. So Ian Togo and Georgia Pender might be the centre-backs of the B team next season. And I'm sure there'll be more players to come in at that level as well. I mean, the budget's not going to be huge for a B team, but players like Ian Togo will be picked up, I would imagine, and we'll see how that goes. And once the academy starts to churn more players through, and remember when we've had to start again, the academy's had to start again from scratch basically, and go get under 16s and under 18s from next to nowhere. So it will take a few years for that to start bearing fruit, I would imagine, unless the academy go out and start buying players. So until then, that you may get Yuri and Togos coming through before the academy players come through and take those roles naturally, which I'm sure they will do in the end. It sounds like we're maybe missing out on Ethan Galbraith, who was linked with us a couple of weeks ago. Killer, it's sounding more like he will be a Swansea player at some point, which will be a shame, which means Town will look to move on. But you can kind of see in that 4-2-3-1 now. We know the shape that they're playing. So I've been producing a number of different little articles called Building Northern Football, which you can find on www.takesthatchance.com. And in there, we've been through the goalkeepers, and we've signed Owen Goodman today. Joel got his equaliser there, didn't he? I got the system right, but Joel's got Owen Goodman right, so there's one back for Joel there. And Owen Goodman's come in. We hear good things about him. We've got Lee Nichols there already, and Jacob Chapman. You'd imagine this town ain't big enough for three of them, so maybe one may find himself moving on, and I think everyone would probably think that would be Lee Nichols, but as I've highlighted in my series of articles, if you let Lee Nichols go, then you've got two very young, inexperienced goalkeepers. I know Jacob Chapman's going to be 25 next season, and that's not really that young, but in terms of minutes played on the pitch, he's quite young in that respect. So that would be a concern, but maybe they'll stay, and maybe they'll battle it out. Who knows? So in terms of players, so we think we've got the left backs fixed and sorted. It sounds like Murray Wallace is going to be like that Sean Rowan type, doesn't it? Sort of left back, centre back kind of thing. We've got Josh Feeney, we've got Josh Jolo, we've got Brody Spencer as well at right back, Sorensen. So in terms of the back four, we're potentially missing one, I think. I've suggested in our centre backs article that Hakeem Adoffin would be a good signing from Rotherham. He would bring pace. He steps out into midfield naturally. I still think we're kind of one short. I think when you look at the injuries of last season, we're potentially one short. I don't want to go into the midfield too much because people won't need to read the articles then, Killer. But we're probably a little bit short all over. You can only have 22 players in a squad, so you obviously can't go out and sign dozens and dozens of players. We're probably a little bit short, but we'll go into that at some point. So moving on. So the other bits of news that we've got, and we'll answer some Patreon questions soon, and the players thing might come back around then, Killer, so we'll move on from there. So the next bit really is that the John Smith Stadium is no more. It's now going to be the Acu Stadium, and Acu's become the official stadium naming rights partner, they call it now, rather than sponsor. For the next 5 seasons. It's a company based in Honley, I think. So it's a local one. Basically sell nuts and bolts, don't they? That's pretty much what they do. But apparently it's a record deal, a record multi-year sponsorship deal, which sounds quite good. So it's going to be the Acu Stadium until 2030. Sounds like good news. A little bit from the press releases together, Acu and Huddersfield Town will invest in the community through education-led STEM outreach programs, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths, community development initiatives, and enhanced matchday experiences and fan engagement activities. When it's a nuts and bolts company, I just think of that like metal thing, do you know, where you kind of like try and like guide the metal thing on the wire sort of thing. But that's the only thing that comes to mind. But I think it sounds very promising, and that sounds very positive with regards to the outreach programs and the community initiatives. And I love that. And I remember when Kevin Nagel joined or bought Huddersfield Town, that's one thing the Sacramento fans said, look, he might have his quirkiness, if you like, but he did a lot of things for the community in Sacramento. I think he built a lot of like five-a-side pitches or helped to build a lot of five-a-side pitches in Sacramento and things like that, which is really good. So I love to see stuff like that, Killer. And it all sounds very, very positive, and the Acu Stadium doesn't sound too bad. You're always worried, aren't you? It's going to end up something like the Tough Sheet Stadium or something really bad like that, like Bolton have had. But Acu Stadium, I can get on board with that.
Hey, that's what I've got written down, Matt. I've got the Tough Sheet Stadium. That is literally, when it comes to stadium names, all you want is something that's not shite. That's it. I just don't want Bargain Bin Stadium, Tough Sheet. Yeah. So it's just what you don't. It's that moment, isn't it? It's like FA Cup draw first round where you're like, just get somebody either that we can lose to and it's all right, but it's not Tamworth away on 4G. And then you get Tamworth away on 4G. Like, oh no, we know what's going to happen here. We're going to be on TV. We're going to be a national embarrassment again. You just know it. And that's what it's like when it comes to stadium deals. The thing is, we all know, if we're being totally honest, Huddersfield as a town centre is struggling, right? And that's probably the best way to put it, the most pleasant way to put it. So it's nice to see a local business do well enough that it can sponsor the stadium. And I think that's a big celebration for us in the town. And the more businesses in Huddersfield that can do better and can reinvest in the football club, the better for all of us as Huddersfield Town fans and people that live in and around the Huddersfield area. So at least it's not a stupid name and a local business. I'm all for it. It's a 5-year deal, which I believe is the first time that's happened, Matt. I think normally it's a 10-year deal, or is it a 5-year deal with an option for another 5? I can't remember, but most of the deals have been 10 years. So maybe that's nodding towards Town taking ownership in the short-term to mid-term future, and then we can look at it again then. But no, look, it's a positive step for the town and the club when you've got a local business sponsoring the stadium. A good move for everyone.
Yeah, fantastic. As well as them, we've got Preston Kitchens continue as the official kitchen partner for 25-26. Majestic Site Management have been announced as the official construction management partner. Apparently, they've been doing some developments with the stadium, and which is quite interesting. Tomlinson Construction are going to be the back of shorts sponsor for 25-26, and they've supported the club with regards to stadium rebrand and the upcoming refurbishment of the club shop. It all feels very McAlpine 1994, doesn't it? This where McAlpine pretty much knocked $2 million off the building price to sponsor the stadium, didn't they, for the next 10 years or so? And do you know what? It's smart in a lot of ways. It probably circumvents tax as well and things like that. So it's probably quite smart. But it sounds very much like we're building a team of construction and fitters, if you like, who are going to do a lot of work in and around the stadium, or will have a lot of work promised to them in and around the stadium over the next couple of years, and to kind of get them on board. There's a lot of sponsorship going on, and it's probably interesting times. And I don't know whether I'm putting 2 and 2 together and getting 5, but it does sort of feel like things will happen down at the stadium, and then these are the guys that are going to bring about change. And I'm all for it, mate. I went to the Stereophonics concert a couple of weeks ago as well on the Saturday, which was great. It was a brilliant night. We'll overlook that he's a Leeds fan, or apparently a Leeds fan. He's the lead singer from Stereophonics. I'm sure I don't think he's a massive Leeds fan. I saw them in Leeds and he never mentioned it. But they're that was a great night, and I took a picture and then posted it on social media, and it just looked absolutely heaving. And it just sort of potential of the area and the stadium to do that. I think we've got queries, me and you, haven't we, over how profitable it is in the long term? Because I think without talking figures, I'm not sure if we're allowed to discuss some of the figures that we've heard. I'm waiting for you to sort of nod or shake your head at that one. But from some of the figures that we'd heard that some of the previous concerts did, it would have taken more than just Stereophonics to on one night to sort of plug the gap. That will be left by the gym leaving the stadium, some of the officers if they leave the stadium. I presume, I've not heard either way, but I presume Ken Davies, Simply Biz, will probably leave the stadium at some point as well, which is rental space. And with the Giants leaving and everything, there's a lot of money to all of a sudden claw back in, and I don't think 2 concerts a year is probably going to do that. So it's going to be interesting, isn't it? So there's a lot of refurbishment, a lot of work going on. I'm interested to see how it goes. There's a new stadium being built. A new cinema being built in the town centre, which probably means the Odeon's probably not going to last particularly long down there as well. So it feels like demand down there is drying up a little bit, and maybe Kevin Nagel's coming in at the wrong time for pushing that, or maybe he's coming in at the perfect time where things are drying up and he can bring or breathe new life into it with what we've got. But there are stumbling blocks. I've gone off on one here a little bit. There's Ken Davey, obviously, is a stumbling block with regards to him not wanting to do anything until he's basically using the situation to try and get the council to give them the gasworks, which the council, I believe, wanted to use that as a pathway or a corridor for science, innovation, and all of that from the stadium to the town centre. So I think the council already had plans for that. So I'm probably a little bit unsure, but I think something good could happen there. Maybe the offices could go in there as well, and as well as some working offices for things like innovation centres, etc. Maybe it could be a community stadium. Maybe the town women could play there as well. If they make it more of a 4G, more 50-50 4G grass, so it's easier to maintain. Maybe town women could play there as well, and maybe at the bigger stadium every now and then as well when the games are all the demands there for it. So there's a lot potentially going on, and it feels like it links into these partners as well that are coming in, and it feels like Jake Edwards, Kevin Nagel, etc. are getting their teams in order and are ready to sort of go into battle. Not really battle, is it? It's more of a construction, but it feels like the team's there. We're just waiting for the green light, aren't we, for things to happen? And I think it's interesting times, Killer, isn't it, down there? And I think these sponsors kind of show the direct sponsor or not really sponsor, more partnerships out there. You can kind of see where things are maybe going and where Town are going, and it's interesting times, isn't it?
Ultimately, Town want to run at break even. That's the message we've got from the club. Even now, where Nagel's putting in excessive, I guess, subjective, but money that obviously we're not going to run at break even this season. I think everyone can kind of expect that, but eventually we hope we can. To do that, you have to bring in more money commercially. It's the only way you can really do it. Commercial sponsorships, partnerships, whatever you call it, Matt, like you say. Businesses, commercial real estate around the stadium, or player trading. And I reckon we're trying to do all those things. These partnerships are fantastic, and Matt, we have not gone to the shirt yet, but the sponsorships that we're getting at the moment and the partners that we're getting seem bigger than previously. Apart from obviously the Premier League years where we even had a hydration sponsor, I believe, if I remember correctly, that didn't pay up and we ended up getting into a bit of trouble with. That's that. Anyway, I digress there. The stadium, like you say, Matt, it's the stadium is obviously potentially a huge asset, but it's also a potential liability in that the stadium has never run at a profit ever before. And our Town are looking under Kevin Nagel to purchase it and own it 100% outright. And like you say, it could be the perfect timing that there's a blank slate because everybody's moved out. The swimming pool's not there anymore. I think Ken Davies' offices, Matt, have already gone. I believe now where you had the White Rose Club before. Again, I can't remember what Town called it most recently, but the
1908 Club or something as well.
Well, yeah, but there's two levels of it, I believe. So there's two levels of hospitality with a similar footprint where previously there was a offices for Mr. Davey. So there's so many things going on, like you say, Matt. The concerts, I'll put a number to what you were suggesting earlier on. I believe last year's Muse concert, they were between 35 and 65 grand on record when it came to Kirklees, I think, reporting it. But realistically, that doesn't include things you can write off elsewhere. So I think the club reckon it's more profitable than that. So obviously you need more than one or two, but it's a little bit more profitable than it appeared last year for a one-off concert. Because obviously, Matt, instead of just running a concert on a Saturday, you could do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday off season. A bit like they do in the Peace Hall if you get your dates right and try and increase profit there. Kevin Nagel, you can question how well he runs Huddersfield Town Football Club when you look at the communication methods he uses quite often. But what you can't question I know. But what you can't question is that he is a very successful businessman in America, and it is around the medical field. He's done this before many times, which is it's got quite a lot of synergy there, Matt, with a medical corridor between Huddersfield Town Stadium, whatever you want to call it, and the town centre, because that's what he's done in Sacramento, and that's what he's been involved with before. And I don't think there's an accident there either. But that, again, I digress, and that's something we'll get onto later on in the season when and if it comes to the surface. But No, with Ken Davey, Matt, with the stadium quickly, this is very much going off a tangent. I'm very worried about that stadium deal going through. We've been here before with Ken Davey and stadium shares and the absolute nightmare we all went through in regards to sold for £2 t-shirts, the yellow ones. If you remember, I've still got mine knocking about somewhere here. And now we're waiting.
In mine.
Well, now we're waiting on David being happy enough with the planning permission given on a giant stadium in Huddersfield. But there's something that's not been mentioned there yet, in that even if planning permission's given for the stadium in Huddersfield, you then have the issue of the funding of it. And now a lot of stadiums, like our stadium, was also funded by the council somewhat. There was loans given from the council to the club or underwritten by the council that the club have paid back in the meantime. So it's not just a planning permission that matters when it comes to the Giants building a stadium, even if they get the gaswork site. There's then the matter of funding it too, and it wouldn't be cheap. So there's so many hurdles to get through yet before Town take on the stadium 100%. I think it's quickly becoming a bit of a mess, and I just hope they can all sort it out quickly. But back to the sponsorship point, Matt, more money into the club from outside sources like that, the more money we can spend on players. And yes, there is a huge correlation between the money you spend on players and the success you have on the field. The more we can get in, the more we can pay out. And hopefully, eventually, we can find a striker to at least score a few goals.
Yeah. Let's move on then. Let's have a talk about the kit then. So Castor, we could do with Cozzy's video, do it with his Viva Castore sort of singing, but we'll spare
no one
everybody.
needs that. No one needs that again. We've seen that enough, Cozzy.
Yeah, we'll move on to the kit, and Castor have revealed, Huddersfield Town and Castor have revealed the new home kit and the new sponsor as well. So Hey Dude is the new sponsor. When I saw that on the front of the shirt, I cringed a little bit. I didn't really know who they were. There was a lot of rumours about Crocs sponsoring us, which people seem to think was hilarious, despite being a multi-billion-pound company. You know, there's pretty successful as well. But Hey Dude are a subsidiary, for want of a better phrase, of them. But they also churn out a lot of money. So it's an Italian brand wanting to break into the UK market. So similar to Recorder Lego, I guess, who were Scandinavian and chose us to be the shirt sponsor about 2012, 13, somewhere around there. They basically chose us because they wanted to break into the British market as well. So it's similar method, if you like. They say it's a record deal outside of the Premier League. So if you cast your minds back to 2019, I think it was, it all merges into one. Paddy Power were the record for Huddersfield Town outside of the Premier League at that point at £500,000. So 2 + 2 in that case, or 500,000 + 1. So you imagine then that deal is worth over £500,000 a year in that case, and it's a record. The stadium ACU is a record, they say. So I think you have to give some credit to Paul Reeves on this one, for sure. He's bringing money in, which is great, and that's what we've always wanted for the club, to bring money in so it can be spent elsewhere, like you've said. So huge credit goes to him for building these record deals. And Rupert Campbell and everyone else, I don't 100% know who's involved. That's why I'm presuming Paul Reeves. So he's going to take the credit from me because for want of a lack of knowledge. But you've got to credit the club on this and the people working at it, because to get the records while you're in League One is good work. Because you cast your mind back to when Dean Hoyle owned the club in League One between 2009 and 12. We had to have charities on the front of the shirt, because basically we struggled to get anything which was financially worthwhile. So Dean just kind of went, do you know what? There's no point getting 20 grand or whatever. We might as well stick a sponsor on there and do some good from it. And we had Kirklees College, didn't we? And we had the Yorkshire Air Ambulance one and other things like that. So to get a record deal for somebody who I think ethically is pretty good as well. I think there was a lot of complaints when we got Utilita and Paddy Power and these kind of sponsors. I don't think there's any sort of ethical unhappiness about Hey Dude. So that's great as well from that point of view. So everybody's happy to a point, apart from those that don't like Utilita because they're on the sleeve still. But so a record as well. So fantastic. Thoughts on the kit killer itself?
On the sponsorship, though, there is an ethical dilemma, because when it was Hey Dude and I'm searching on my computer, and again, Lucy, my wife, shares an office with me, she's looking at me, looking at Sydney Sweeney wearing Hey Dude shirts, shoes as the director of Hey Dude, and that got me in a little bit of an ethical dilemma here at home, Matt. But apart from that, it's fantastic. The
I
shirt,
reckon they could get round. So I mean, that'd be better than Tom Brady, wouldn't it? I mean, Tom Brady versus Sydney Sweeney. I mean, that'd be good for us. It brings some eyes. And Kevin Nagel, if you're listening, it's better than. I mean, he tried it before. He had one of the sisters from Sister in, didn't he, from the 1990s TV show, which is great. But if you can get Sydney Sweeney on board, then that would certainly bring some eyes, ears, and pound notes our way. Sure.
Thing is, it's an international level sponsor that puts more eyes on Huddersfield Town Football Club, and I'm pretty sure when you've got Hey Dude as your sponsor, you can then use that to get better sponsorship or increase sponsorship revenues elsewhere. Because again, the profile given to the club because of them, it's a great move from the commercial team at Town. Well done to everybody involved there. The shirts. Now, I'm not that bothered for shirts, Matt. I'm not that bothered for shirts at the best of time. I'm not the person to ask for it. I'd have preferred something a little bit more retro, a little bit more Thrice Champions-esque, Matt, a little bit more with a lace on the neck for a real throwback. But I understand in, again, today's world and sponsorship, it's not sponsorship deals, kit suppliers and Castor kind of and everybody else really uses a template style model for kits and eventually, and hopefully, like you say, Matt, if that brings more money into the football club so they can spend more on players, I get it from that side. The shirt itself looks all right. It doesn't look too flattering for the few of us that
the fat guys,
the many of us that are in shape. Yeah, I think I'm going to look like I've got some boobs on wearing that. The vegan diet doesn't help when it comes to wearing that shirt, I don't think. But look, it's classic Town, isn't it? You can see. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, Matt, they're growing. They're growing, and I'm not entirely sure, but the carb loading, the daily carb loading is going to affect my effectiveness wearing this shirt this year, I reckon. But no, look, it's a nice shirt. You can see the width of the stripes replicate the width of the stripe on the Thrice Champion shirt. So there's some pattern there and some throwback. There's a nice little etching of Thrice Champions on the inside collar of the shirt. This will be if Castore can deliver them on time, because obviously we've seen at a few different clubs in England that there's been some manufacturing issues. So hopefully they get that sorted. But the shirt looks classy enough. And to be fair, my theory is the worse the shirt, the better we perform in the season, generally. So when you ever look at the great seasons we've had, the shirts have never been that great. And that's probably why I don't really have many of them. For me, this one's a bit of a mid-ranger, but the sponsorship's good. And that's what matters the most. If it gets us an extra striker that's not necessarily Fred Ladapo or Bojan Radulovic, then I'm all for it. But no, I understand where they've gone with it. The video, though, Matt, Fred. I will say the video they released with it that Peter O'Toole did with another, I can't remember who the other person was, is absolutely fantastic. And now that is the way Town should market themselves everywhere. We should be, never mind Northern football, the history Huddersfield Town have is the equivalent of what Arsenal have, and they like to portray themselves with all class and all style. And I honestly believe from the bottom of my heart, that's how Town should go about everything, not the working class club or whatever we went with before. It should be that we are traditionally successful. And the way that graphic went out is how I think of our club. That's what I think we are. Okay, we are an underdog, but when we do it properly, we do it Northern football style, Matt. And I really enjoyed that. So the shirt wasn't actually as important as the release video, because I'm weirdly proud of that one.
Honestly, I absolutely love the release video. It's one of my favourite videos I think I've ever seen Huddersfield Town produce. Not only has it got my mate Danny Carrain doing the voice as well, which is fantastic. Sorry, I'm just playing that in the background there. I just looking through it, and I've pressed the wrong thing and something. My little boy's been on my bloody YouTube channel, and some Jurassic Park nonsense just came up. But there's like, looking through this, and it's fantastic animation, and honestly the drawing's wonderful, and everything about it is just phenomenally good. Bits from like the Town Club Dead, which was the headline. There's just so many little brilliant things in this. Like the Town Club Dead was the headline, in the 1919-20 season, wasn't it? From when they almost went completely bust. There's other little things in here whereby they've got the role of the people from the war. I'm just quickly going through it. Lifting the cup, and they're wearing those hats, the hats that they used to wear and things like that. And and then there's a picture of Herbert Chapman, and on the board is his famous WM formation. There's little things like this which I think are just brilliant. he's got his tactics board, and it's like the WM system that he's coming up with, which he used to pretty much create, which he was credited with creating anyway. And then you've got other things as well in here. You've got the bit where they're doing leapfrog. Go back and watch the final whistle video, and I haven't seen the final whistle for a while, but I remember them training in the 1920s when they had that video, where they're rolling video, and there's like a weird a dog comes on and stuff like that, and then they're all playing leapfrog over each other, and that was like a fitness method at the time. So just to see that, I thought was just so brilliantly thought out, and Cecil Potter there with his things on, and honestly, the programs and stuff, I just thought this was wonderful, just a wonderful video. I absolutely loved it, and I watched that 5 or 6 times, over the course of that evening. I just thought it was brilliant. I made my little boy watch it, and little things like that, where he's a Huddersfield fan growing up in Leeds, so it's tough for him. But to see stuff like Huddersfield Town 100 years ago, Huddersfield Town were the best club side in the world, stuff like that sticks with kids. And like you say, the marketing thing, we were the best team in the world. Okay, it's 100 years ago, but Huddersfield Town were the best team in the world. And things like that. I just thought the whole way through, I just thought it was brilliant, and really well done to the club on that. And I hope they listen to us rambling on about it, Killer, because I think they've just done an amazing job with it, and I could sit and talk about it all night, but I probably shouldn't. The kit itself, I just think it's all right. Not amazing, not terrible. We'll see the other ones. We've seen Goodman in the red, haven't we, today? A short sleeve red kit, which looks like the keeper top. Looks all right. Doesn't look amazing. Doesn't look bad. But yeah, like I say, a huge credit goes to Paul Reeves for brokering and Rupert Campbell, whoever's involved, for brokering the record deals. I think they've done very well to do that in League One. So big congratulations to them, and hopefully it bodes well for the coming year. And good news as well, Killer, is that they've kind of taken the women's team under their wing as well. So there's an amalgamation going on with the men's and women's team. I think this is so long in coming, isn't it? And I'm really pleased Kevin Nagel's done this. And he talks about doing things for the betterment of the community. This is one of those things, we want women's football is growing, as we know. And we've sponsored Beth Stanfield, haven't we, for a couple of years on the podcast. We're really happy to do that. Beth's such a nice person as well, and we have her on the podcast every now and then. So for them to get help, essentially, to go in the right direction, I think is great. And they've already been able to sign Laura Elford and Beth Davies. These players have come back who they were part of a good Huddersfield team a couple of years ago, and they've now got enough clout to bring some of their better players back. So that bodes really well. And I just think it's a really positive step. And I think the next step would be to get a couple of games in the stadium. And look, women's football is not for everyone, and that's fine. Academy football is not for everyone, and that's fine. But you stick a Huddersfield Town badge on 2 frogs flicking around a lily pad, and I'm sponsoring. I'm supporting them. You know what I mean? I'm a Huddersfield Town fan. Anything Huddersfield Town go into, even if it's cricket, kabaddi, anything, I'm supporting that Huddersfield Town team. That's just the way I am.
We'll be there, Matt. We're there with tactics board going, oh, yeah, look, those frogs there. Yeah. Bit wide. I'm with you, man. I'm with you 100%. I can't believe it's taken so long for it to happen. And again, in a tenure under Kevin Nagel where there's been a lot of wrongs, I think we can all accept, and a lot of learning curves that have been pretty sharp, unfortunately. This is an absolute no-brainer. It doesn't cost very much relatively to run a pretty successful women's team. Now, we live in an area where local football, Gel Pack League, HDAF, or whatever it is, and junior leagues. I know you're a little bit away from here, but they're huge. But they're huge. Yeah, but they're so big, and there's so many people playing football, and a lot of them are girls playing football, and obviously they'll never be able to play for the men's team. But now there is a one club. There's a one club vision where both the men and the women's team are the same club, and I only can see positives in that. I know there's a few people with a few tweets recently, Matt, that have taken exception to that, but they're very much the minority, and I hope the club ignore that and crack on as they are doing, because again, as a dad of a bazillion children, but a lot of them are girls, three girls, just for absolute clarity there. all of whom, by the youngest yet, because she's only, one, the two elder ones both play football, and they both love it, and they both can watch Town with me when I let them. Again, me watching Town, as you know, is my time. I don't generally bring my children because that's me escaping from the family. But every now and again, I bring them, and they absolutely love it. And for one day that they can now hope and dream.
Tickets for your kids, then Kevin Nagel's tweet about outdoing last year's sales would probably be true, I think.
That's actually the big reveal that's coming in August that I've not told anybody. All of a sudden, it'll be like, we're up, and it's because Kilroy's bringing all these kids. But no, it's nice for them now to be able to want to play for Town and play on the field like the dad did a few weeks ago and score in the partners game when they got battered 8-1. But I still bagged in that stadium, and one day they too can replicate what the dad's done. But this time for them in a game that actually matters, not one that only I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, and we'll continue to sponsor Beth and as the women's team as much as we can on this podcast, and we do check in with them now and then, just to see. And to be honest, I'd like to do it more often, but we are we're a fans podcast, and basically you check in as and when you feel like I'm trying to word this properly. But we'll check in as and when we feel that we need to, if you like, just so people can be updated. And if things are going well, we'll probably be very fair weather fans like we are and check in more. If they're kind of going okay, then we'll probably carry on as well. But we want to do more with that. We want to do more with the academy and all sorts. And I even started a Huddersfield Giants pod with Josh and a couple of others a few years ago. Unfortunately, we didn't get more than 100 listeners a week, so we binned it quite quickly because the Giants aren't particularly well supported. But like I say, any Huddersfield team, I'm going to support them and wish them all the best, and I do with them as well. Killer, we had a couple of questions, didn't we, from some of our Patreon users? Just a couple. Do you want to fire through them and see what we've got?
Yeah, I'll ask you then, Matt. We'll have a change of roles here. So Terrier Jack, who's the number one Patreon fan, I reckon, Matt, with the amount of questions he chucks into us, has asked.
He's consistent, is Jack. I'll give him that.
Do you think we'll get the bulk of our transfer work done before we go to Austria? If so, there's a huge 2 week for the clubs to get ready to gel together early. It's also worth noting that Birmingham City didn't make the most of their transfers until July and August last season. Matt, where are you at with that?
No, I don't think we will. And I think anybody who expects us to get it done before we go to Austria is not deluded. That's a bit over the harsh, but I think they have to understand that. I think, I'm probably talking rubbish now, and it'll be me who looks like a dickhead, but I think we've done in terms of frees, and that's the ones that are easy to do. The free transfers are easy to do, and I think we're now into an era, if you like, a very small era of loans and purchases, and they're much harder to do, and they take a lot longer to do. So we mentioned Ethan Galbraith earlier, and I was talking to a couple of them on Discord about this earlier today. Look, basically, if we make an offer for Ethan Galbraith, there's 5 or 6 other Championship clubs interested. The first thing that Leyton Orient are going to do is they're going to go to these 5 or 6 clubs and go, hey, everyone, Huddersfield Town have offered this. Can you beat that? And they're going to initiate some kind of player auction as best they can. And then what will happen is one of those will bid for them, Swansea maybe in this case, and then they'll go and do the same thing again. Hey, everyone, Swansea bid 2 million for Ethan Galbraith. Can you beat that? And it will go round and round and round, and they'll sit on it and wait for people if they think people are going to do it. And the only time it will get done is when they think that that's the top offer that they're going to get, and they'll press the button, and then they can go about their own business. So transfers where there's a fee for Huddersfield Town. Huddersfield Town are going to be ambitious in who they're trying to sign. We've seen us linked with Nathan Lowe. We've seen us linked with Galbraith. We've seen a couple of others. Huddersfield Town are not going to, with the respect and without knowing a better example, we're not going to go to Halifax Town and offer 50 grand for their midfielder. Oh, we might do, but we're not going to go. And that's not the level of what we're trying to do. Huddersfield Town are going for players of Championship quality by the looks of it. When Huddersfield Town in League One go for players of Championship quality, it's difficult. It'll drag out. Players will wait for a better offer. Teams and clubs will wait for more money and better offers. It's going to be really, really awkward, and we will have lists of players for each position, and we'll have lists of 4 or 5 players for each position, and it may get down to choice number 4, choice number 5, because teams will drag this. Selling clubs will drag this out to get the best deal possible that they can get. It's unfortunately it's not like going to the local co-op and seeing a price £2.99 and paying it on your card. It's just, and I know a lot of Huddersfield fans know that, and it's basically telling you something you already know. But it's going to be laborious, in my opinion, and I don't think we'll get it done by Austria, because people will wait for better things than Huddersfield Town because of the ambitions that we're setting, and that will take a while. And like Jack says, Birmingham, who had a lot more money than us and a lot more clout than us at this level, didn't make most of their transfers until July and August as well, and they were for purchases as well. So unfortunately, there's domino effects in place. People won't let players go until they have sourced replacements, etc. It's like buying a house, innit, Killer? Unfortunately, it's gonna take a little while. And like Lee Grant said the other day in an interview, we're going for players that will give us a target on our back, and also that he said that we're happy to sit and wait for the right players rather than going out and signing them, which to me says that, yeah, we're not going to have all our deals done in time for Austria.
A question I can't remember who asked though, Matt. Do you think we're now in a position where it's one out, one in?
No. Don't think
Okay.
so. No. I think I know we've brought 7 in, haven't we? It's quite a lot. You can only, like I said, we can
I guess,
22.
Matt, that's the question, I think. I think it's not just financially, because obviously Kevo can stump the money up front. But with the amount of players we can have in the squad, are we getting to a 1 in, 1 out scenario where, like, for example, Goodman's joined today and we're automatically putting 2 and 2 together here and thinking that Nichols will be out because Chapman signed a new contract last year and it's unlikely, even though his performance has dropped off at the end of last season, that he'd be the next one out because of the new contract signed. It'd be Nichols out the door. Do you think, to be fair, personally, I think we're getting close to this myself, but I just wondered where you were at on this.
No, I don't. I don't think it's a case of having to move one out before we bring one in, or that scenario. I think we can sign what we want, but it will get to a point where if we bring in a couple more players that we might think, right, okay, then he's not going to get in the squad. He's not going to get in the squad, and then they'll move on that. So they will need to let players go, but I don't think it's dependent on. I don't think us bringing players in is dependent on letting players go. No.
Okay, another question in from the Patreon. Obviously, we've been linked with Lowe from Stoke. Yet at the moment, I think belief is that they're going to try him early doors in pre-season to see where he's at, and if he is sent on his way or available for loan or permanent transfer, we're kind of first in line. That's the rumours that I think most fans believe. How would we get him, JT, as in Joe Taylor, Charles, and fit within the forward three as those three look on paper to be the first 3 names on the team sheet when in regards to that? Or does Harness and Ruskin have a bit of a role to play in that front 3 if Lowe does come in? What kind of formation do you see, Matt, if he does join?
I don't think we'll deviate from 4-2-3-1. I think it will be one of them, not all 3. Basically, I think Charles is going to be second to Taylor, regardless, unless we see performances from Taylor like last season. I think the problem you get with Taylor is he doesn't particularly hold the ball up great. He's not someone that you can have as a pivot who players will move around. He's one of the ones that move. So you need a pivot. Without wanting to go into too much because I'm writing articles on it, basically we need to platform Joe Taylor, and the best way to platform him and get something out of him is by having someone hold the ball up close to him or be capable of that. Nathan Lowe did drop wide for Walsall. It's not inconceivable that with the way that Lee Grant has his wide attackers, that they come in, it's not inconceivable that Lowe could play wide left coming in. And then Ruskin, he can drop back to left back and he can bomb on and provide that width from outside. So it's not inconceivable that Lowe could play as a wide striker that comes inside, or Taylor drops to a 10 position. It's and you have, if you go back a long time, Barnsley used to have Andy Payton, and they used to play 4-4-2, and Andy Payton used to play midfield /striker, and they used to have him late coming into the box. So there's different ways to skin a cat, but I don't see Taylor and Charles starting in the same team. I think it's one or the other. And I think the thing with our strikers as well is that I will say is I think there needs to be a contrast. We spoke on the podcast in January about basically going out and signing the same striker twice with Taylor and Charles because they have the same strengths and same weaknesses broadly. So Lowe is slightly different to them, but when you look at that squad, you need to be able to go through teams and you need to be able to go over the top of teams. So especially in low blocks. So is Lowe the striker you want to go over the top of someone? I'm not sure, but there's a guy that went to Bolton, Delby. We thought would be ideal, didn't we?
Yeah.
Sometimes you need someone that you can throw on for 15 minutes who's 6'3", 6'4", and he'll win the ball in the air and something will break, like Michael Smith, for example. So I think there's a lot of leeway there, and obviously all three don't need to start at the same time, but they will need to play. But Lowe could play up front and Taylor drops to the bench, or Lowe could play wide, is basically where I'm saying on that one.
Yeah, I'm with you on it, Matt. I think it's really important that we find a way to play guys that are a little bit different because, like you say, with Taylor and Charles, they're too similar. Unless you go with a 4-4-2, which nobody wants to see. Even then, I don't think it'd be great, to be totally honest, but I can't see it other than that. But Matt, last question I've got from the Patreon Discord, again, available only for Patreon subscribers, Matt. Lewis O'Brien, overrated, underrated, or rated fairly? I've seen some passionate discussion today between yourself and a few other users in regards to how effective he was down. Correct.
I thought I realize I'm not. It's probably not the popular opinion for me, but I thought Lewis O'Brien was head and shoulders Town's player of the season in that 21-22 season. I remember making mention of it then. You look at the full range of statistics on what he did. He was his dribbling from one. Basically, how we played under Carlos Coburn was to have Lewis O'Brien dribble from penalty box to penalty box, and that was the way we got forward because we couldn't pass for shit. Lewis was probably partly responsible for that as well. But I thought he was phenomenal for us. I thought he was a brilliant player. I thought he was our best player at that time. The little partnership he had with Toffolo was fantastic on and off the pitch. For me, I thought Lewis O'Brien, if I make an all-time Huddersfield Town 11, Lewis O'Brien gets in there for me. So I think Lewis O'Brien is underrated because he should have won Player of the Year that year. And I will always argue that Lee Nichols was overrated that year. He was good, very good, don't get me wrong. But I thought his performances were slightly over-egged because of how bad Ryan Schofield was before. And I felt that Lee Nichols got the player of the season because he wasn't Ryan Schofield, basically. But he was very good and he deserved to get in the top three. But I thought Lewis O'Brien should have pissed that, in all honesty. I thought it was phenomenal. The amount of tackles, recoveries, the energy just from getting one. And I think the argument was like he wasn't quite good enough to play in the Premier League. And I get that from Josh. I understand where he's coming from. I don't think goals and assists should be used as a method to judge whether he is, because different players are completely different. I think in the right setup with the right coach, Lewis O'Brien could be a lower end Premier League player, but in all likelihood he's not always going to get that. So he probably is a top end Championship player, and he's wasted time in America as well, which he didn't need to do. But yeah, Forest really sort of ruined us and his career, didn't they? Although Toffolo's ended up playing quite a lot for them, and a lot more than we expected for them, and he's available this summer. But yeah, I thought it was good. He sits next to Aaron Moy for me as my favourite two central midfielders. I put Lewis O'Brien. This is controversial for you, but in my all-time Huddersfield team, Lewis O'Brien goes in there rather than Jonathan Hogg.
Oh, Mark, I'm going to say Aaron Moy then. I'm going to have a bit of an issue. I'm going to kick off.
Him and Marcus Stewart are my two favourite Huddersfield players. They walk in.
Computer monitor were on the floor, Matt, if you'd have said he was in instead of Moy. But he's an extra question. We're in overtime for our American viewers. If you go with the midfield three, then you've got Moy and Lewis O'Brien, and I know this is not the podcast for this, but at this point I need to chuck it in. You've got O'Brien, you've got Moy, you've got Billing. Oh, Matt, look at you and me. We are equals. We are equals.
He was underrated as well. I thought some of the stuff that Billing got was absolutely ridiculous online from Huddersfield fans. I think he's proved ever since that they were talking absolute shite when they as to what he was described as by a lot of Town fans. But there we go. So yeah, my all time. Oh god, I can't remember what my all time Huddersfield Town team is. I think I had Lossell in goal. Bear in mind, this is not necessarily the best team, but it's my favourite. So everyone's got their favourites, haven't they? And I don't think there's a wrong answer apart from if you're choosing Kwame Hadutu or something. But I think Lossell gets the nod in goal from Phil Senior, and Phil Senior's mentioned because he's my mate, and I think he's a great guy. So he's my favourite in that respect. But Lossell, I think, is the best keeper we've had. Tommy Smith, right back, gets the nod for me. I thought him in the 16-17 season was brilliant. I know Premier League it probably didn't quite as go, but Tommy Smith's my favourite. Schindler, centre back. It's so hard to partner one with Schindler though, because you've got I'm obviously older than you, Killer. So I go back to Peter Jackson when Peter Jackson played, Pat Scully, Lee Sinnott, Chris Leketti, Ken Moncow. There's loads that I'm going to miss out. I love Michael Heffler. I absolutely love Michael Heffler as a character. It's hard not to give it to him. I had actually, but I think it's probably going to have to be Levi Colwill in it. I think next to Schindler, but I find it hard not to put Michael Heffler in there just because of what a great character is. Left back's tough. Do you know, I think left back could be really controversial.
I think our left back will be the hardest one to pick. For when we say all-time Town team, we mean in our living life, don't we? So
yeah. Obviously, Ray Wilson wins otherwise, or Sammy Wadsworth. But you've got 4 really good ones to pick from. Probably 5 actually, but 4 real standout. Jamie Vincent's probably the 5th on the periphery, but you've got Tom Cowan. You've got Tom Cowan. You've got. I mean, Ben Chilwell can't count really, can he? He was only 18. So you've got Tom Cowan.
I took him in. If you're chucking in Levi Colwill, you have to chuck in Chiller.
Chilwell only played 12 games, didn't he? But you've got Tom Cowan. You've got Chris Lerver, Harry Toffolo. Goes in there as well in the bracket for me. I know that's probably controversial to some, but Harry Toffolo goes in the bracket for me. I thought it was really good for us. But I think I give it Simon Charlton, I think I might go Simon
You're also
Charlton.
forgetting Martin Kelly. I'd give a shout out for Martin Kelly as well.
Yeah,
he's only for a few games. But if you're looking at how good he was, he was fantastic for those few games he was with us.
Yeah, and then that midfield's obviously Moy, Lewis O'Brien and Philip Billing. And then the front, I find it impossible to pick that front three because you've got Boothie, you've got Marcus Stewart. Then how do you fit in like Gary Roberts and Pilkington and the good wide players we've had? And it's difficult, isn't it, to pick one? But Marcus Stewart's got to go in. I love Steve Mounier, as a character, but Booth. So you got Stewart and Booth, haven't you? And then probably Pilkington, Stewart. But then it's a little bit lopsided, isn't it?
Yeah, how can you miss out Jordan Rhodes here, Matt? I know it wouldn't work formation-wise, systemically, but you've got a guy that's got more goals for us in a season than more or less anybody else in living memory.
I know. That's it. It's tough, isn't it? Tough. He's in the mentions. Is Jordan for sure, but it's difficult, isn't it? We've had some good players, haven't we? But that midfield though, Billing, Moy, and O'Brien, that's prem class, isn't it? That's decent, is that?
Oh, I would have loved to have seen that for a few seasons. How good would that have been? What a digression again for a podcast, Matt. Look where we've ended up.
Yeah, do you know, if I had more time to think about that, I'd probably come up with a better front three than that. But I was a big Gary Roberts fan, mate. I was a big fan of Gary Roberts. I thought his first touch was amazing. But Pilkington was obviously top class, wasn't he? And I liked Adam Hamill for a short bit. Adam Hamill was absolutely electric for about 8 weeks at one point. But there's a lot of good players, a lot of bad ones. It was easier to do the bad ones, wasn't it? Back when we did the Whoppers and Weapons episode about 6 years ago with Neil and Cosley, that was fun to do. But probably can't do things like that these days. But yeah, best one. And did I mention Peter Clark at the back as well? Got an episode coming out with him soon. Peter Clark mentioned for the back. Even Graham Mitchell. I used to like Graham Mitchell when I was a kid as well. There's loads of players. Goalkeepers as well. Steve Francis. Used to love Steve Francis. Steve Harper. There's so many. Do you know what I mean? People could put their teams in, and do you know what? I'd probably look at them and go, "Yeah, I like that team as well." So, yeah, there's lots of good options. Chris, like I say, Ken Moncow was phenomenal as well at the back. So there's so many. As long as you're not picking don't know, David Unsworth at left back or something. I think we're all Kevin Sharp. I think we're all good, aren't we?
You're all right.
Yeah. Simon Trevitt as well, right back. So I forgot Simon Trevitt. I liked him a lot when I was younger as well. There we go. Lots of them. Phil Starbuck. See, we can go on for it. You and Roberts, you can go on for ages. What a group of players. So, yeah. I think that's all we got time for it this week. I think we.
Otherwise, Leighton Orient will be kicking off, Matt, in a few minutes if we crack on like this. We're nearly there. We've missed
Swansea. Anyway, I think that's all we've got time for, isn't it? I think the last thing to mention is that we've been with Patreon over 3 months now, which means that you can we're now allowed to sell annual Patreon memberships, and it's cheaper. So if you fancy doing that instead of having to pay monthly, easier to budget, it's available. Sign up. So some of those signed, sealed, delivered episodes as well. So another reason why it's worth signing up for the Patreon is as a free member, you don't have to pay. If you sign up for a free member, a lot of the episodes that we do, which are Patreon exclusives, will, after a certain period of time, then become available to the free members as well. So the signed, sealed, delivered episodes, I think they're about 25, 30 days before they then become available to the free members. Hopefully I'm not telling people how to beat the system there, Killer. But so that's why it's always worth signing up for the Patreon. And those articles that I'm finally getting around to as well will be Patreon exclusives as well, which for free members. So building Northern football with my tremendous AI pictures of Kevin Nagel and Lee Grant in there as well for you all to see. So, Killer, we went on for 1 hour, 20 minutes. How long did we think this episode had last before we started?
25, 30.
Yeah, at the most. I think that's it. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Killer, you're going to go to Austria, I think, aren't you? Or are you working out if you can go to Austria at the moment?
No, I'll be going. Don't you worry, Matt. I've been looking at flights / trains. Actually, trains are running cheaper at the moment if I get a last-minute deal on the Eurostar. But the thing is, Town have been so late in announcing what's going on and when. I was going to go Monday, Wednesday flight. Then the game's been moved to a Wednesday instead of the Tuesday, and it's knackered me right up. So instead of costing me 90 quid, it's costing me a little bit more. But no, as of now, Matt, I'm escaping the family for a week, and I shall be having a nice time. But we'll see how it goes.
That's another reason to sign up for the Patreon, is that we will be having exclusive reports back from the Austrian training base by our roving reporter in Österreich, Mr. Ian Kilroy Silk. So you'll be able to find that on Patreon as well. I'm not sure if the club will allow you to speak to anybody players-wise, but you can sort of worth a go, innit? So if Dave Threlfall Sykes or Raj is listening, we're nice lads, really. Just let Killer have a chat. You know, he'll stick his phone in front of someone, and if you don't like it, then we'll delete it.
That or we'll get banned. And with the anti-establishment podcast instead of We Are Terriers that are an insider job. Right. And on that note, Matt, I think we're done.
Right. I'm going to go message Dave and tell him what you said.
See ya.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So Town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So Town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield. Huddersfield.